Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Already folk have been in touch with us saying this is just outrageous, and all it'll do is potentially make them a similar cost to cigarettes. People will just go back to cigarettes. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is a really complex area, as I think you know, James, being a previous smoker who's found the transformative product as vaping like many millions others have.
Yeah.
Having said that, I do equally understand, I'm sure you do, particularly for non-vapers and maybe even non-smokers, that their perception will be these are potentially as bad as smoking, and hopefully we can come on to address that. That's categorically unproven to be untrue. This is a materially safer alternative.
Yeah.
Nicotine is something that a smoker needs if they're going to be successful with their quit attempt. And vapes, very importantly, contain nicotine, but they are materially safer. And yes, we've all been appalled, particularly in the last 2 years, about the growth in youth vaping, which is absolutely not what the importance or the proposition of vaping should be about. The government, as you know, recently introduced an intent to ban single-use products. And largely, whilst they've helped many smokers access who probably otherwise wouldn't access vaping, and that's the positive, there has been this disproportionate attraction to use, despite there being regulation that says that you shouldn't be able to buy these products. So on one hand, we've got a ban that's going through on the products that were cited as disproportionately attracting use.
Yeah. But
as you say, now we're in danger of throwing baby out with the bathwater and putting a tax to the very people that actually it was never attractive to use, refillable devices, liquids that play such a vital role. And now's the time where we should be giving every encouragement for them to make that switch, not potentially putting future barriers in place.
Well, let's look at some of the issues that potentially the non-vaping people have to say about it and see if we can just clarify some of them. You've already alluded to the health aspect, and it kind of bothers me a lot when people conflate smoking cigarettes to vaping. They are two very, very different things, right?
You're absolutely right. And it is important to try and illuminate this, because if you are a non-smoker or non-vapor, this is where, as you say, the two issues get very much conflated. YouGov did a study in January, 3,000 adults, and actually it's at an all-time low with the understanding and accurate understanding. And actually only 2 in 10 adults in that survey could accurately cite that vaping was materially safer than smoking, which is why this very topic that you're addressing today is so important. The cigarettes, the combustibles, contain 7,000 toxins. It's the tar, it's the burning of that combustible ingredient that creates the health effect of, quite uniquely, if used exactly as prescribed by the manufacturer, 2 in 3 of those users and lifelong users will unfortunately die. Vaping contains nicotine. It doesn't contain anything like the number of toxins and the carcinogens that exist in cigarettes. And therefore, as you say, there is no better time if you are a smoker to make that switch. But it is really important that we get this balanced discussion to try and ensure that they've got the confidence to do so.
They do, of course, contain nicotine, and that's kind of how they work. Where can we place nicotine in the list, shall we say, of drugs that are commonplace? Because I've read on a number of reports that it's no really different to caffeine.
Yeah, and in many ways, you neither I do want to trivialise that no one should be adopting vaping if they're not a smoker or would-be smoker, social smoking, for example. And many people deny that they're a smoker but find themselves on a Friday or Saturday night, at worst asking for cigarettes or going and buying a packet because they know they're going to need them. And on that basis, yes, nicotine has often been compared. It will raise your blood pressure. It will dilate those vessels. And it's not great to inhale something that you wouldn't ordinarily be doing, in the same way that you probably shouldn't be drinking too much alcohol, stick to water and breathe fresh air. But actually, for those smokers, it's nothing like the harm. And as you say, nicotine is what they require. Nicotine isn't the killer. It's the other elements that sit within combustible cigarettes that are the problem. And as you say, really important that people understand nicotine is required. People, if they go to a reputable store, can work their way down nicotine strength. That's even better for them to, over time, to enjoy vaping as the substitute, because many of them enjoy smoking, but they have this moral dilemma that they understand it's not the right thing to be doing, and vaping provides that much safer alternative.
That's a really good point. My daughter-in-law was here over the weekend, and she vapes, and I said, what fluid? Oh, it's nicotine-free fluid. I said, what? Really? She said, yeah, because that's how you get yourself off them altogether. Using nicotine-free fluid. I said, why do you vape at all? Well, it's kind of like the habit thing, and it's part of weaning ourselves off the habit of whatever it is that we're so used to and find addictive. So there is progress there already.
Yeah, for sure. And as you say, many people won't be aware that a typical journey of a smoker may enter into vaping. It's really important they go to the right store. It's sort of like, would you ever think buying a car? Maybe people do online and it's a much bigger purchase, but it doesn't affect your health in the same way that making the decision to switch to vaping would. And therefore, go to a reputable store, make sure you get the right device, make sure you try some of the various products that are available to get the right product for you to be a successful quit attempt. They may then use very regularly very popular flavors. Again, the non-vapor and non-smoker will think flavors, this is about enticing people in.
Yeah.
Well, actually, no, it's not. It's about people may start on tobacco, but then very quickly get as far away as possible from that they were addicted to.
Yeah.
So flavors play a key role. And then as you describe, nicotine strength, if done in the right way, can be reduced. But the key thing is people get the right products, don't withdraw the nicotine too soon. Otherwise, they will likely lapse back to cigarettes.
Last decade, smoking was, of course, banned in public places, and probably rightly so, because of the fear, amongst other things, of the dangers of second-hand smoke. Some folks still think there is a danger to, shall we say, second-hand vape steam. What do we know about that?
There's certainly no academic research that suggests there's any harm that comes from passive vaping. As an aside, as I'm sure you and many others, responsible vaping is key. If you're not a smoker and you're not a vapor and someone's next to you blowing big plumes of vapor, there's nothing more uncomfortable. And it's really important that vapors take that responsibility to say, do it for your own requirements. But whilst there is no evidence of that passive effect, actually just take responsibility that not everyone is either a smoker or a vapor, and do it discreetly for your own means, not for intrude on anyone else.
All right. As you say, nobody really wants to see the youths taking up anything, not least of which smoking, and certainly not vapes. What would you advise then, Marcus, the government to do to tackle youth vaping as opposed to this one-size-fits-all sledgehammer?
Yeah, absolutely right. And this is where they've recently done a consultation of which they had a number of responses to it. The single-use products have undoubtedly been of disproportionate attraction, but important that everyone recognises we're appalled by it, that people have got access to these products. Any reputable store that understands the privilege but also the responsibility that comes with selling these products would not put them into the hands of youths. They do mystery shops, strict age verification protocols to ensure they don't. But unfortunately, the prolific nature of the availability of these products and the illicit market is often where you find youths will get access to these products. So what the government have done is they've done the consultation and announced an intention to ban the single-use products. And whilst we would say that they have a role to play through the reputable retailers and the regulation that exists today, you could argue just enforce that properly. But actually, if the sacrificial lamb is the single-use product that has been disproportionately attractive, that legislation is already due to come into effect. Then, to your point, that was the area of attraction that, please God, that means that retailers will not put these into the hands and youths can't get access to these products. But so far as beyond that, what the government needs to do is actually drive a national advertising campaign to ensure that smokers have got that confidence to make this transition to a materially safer alternative. So effectively, don't touch flavours, because this is really going to throw baby out with the bathwater because of their pivotal role in helping smokers. Do a national campaign to ensure that people are entirely aware and confident to go to a reputable store and use vaping if you see you need to switch off combustible cigarettes. And let's focus on enacting existing regulation to ensure that these transformative products only get into the hands of adult smokers.
Many are aware of the difficulties that many have with coming off cigarettes. My goodness me, for some, it's a lifelong trial of trying this, trying that, with varying degrees of success. Would you have organisations and companies be just a little more supportive with those that are trying to come off the very dangerous cigarettes to vapes, but they're being treated like smokers? They're being sent outside in the rain to vape, and they're just going to go back to cigarettes if you do that.
Yeah, that's right. And it is a difficult one because there's many an employee work environment, which you say will sort of treat vapers in the same way as smokers and sort of say, please go outside to the rain and the cold to undertake your habit. It's difficult because absolutely, do people, back to that responsible vaping, should they be doing it in the workplace? Well, that would be a very liberal employer that understands that. But as you say, what we've got to be careful of here is if you see someone vaping, treat them as they were potentially a smoker in the majority of cases. Yeah. They are transforming their own life literally through finding this product. If you can do it literally cold turkey, that's great, but there are so many millions of people that can't. And vaping has been proven to be the most successful quit aid compared to all the other alternatives available. And we need to embrace people and recognise the journey that they're going on, make it as clear as possible and support them with that. And the government are, to be fair to them, doing a swap to stop scheme. This is the slight irony of where this isn't really a coherent to enable people to access them effectively free of charge. But for those that can't access them free of charge, then let's support them, not put further tax on it, and let's make sure that we're very clear on the transformative role that they can play.
Or treat them like pariahs would be a starting point for me as well. And what you've said there, the NHS are in agreement. If you look at their website, they are in agreement with what you're saying there, aren't they?
Yeah, and cancer research. And there's been many leading academics that, you can do endless research, whether it's on nicotine, whether it's the studies, and often cited is, but we don't know the long-term effect. Well, just to be clear, whilst there's been a sudden prolific growth in the last 2 years, many of our members have been around, and vaping has been around for 15 years. Yeah. And whilst, yes, the long-term effect of inhaling vaping is, you could argue, we've only got 15 worth of very, very meaningful studies. The fact is, if you're a smoker, it is categoric that 2 out of 3 lifelong smokers, unfortunately, are going to die. The impact on the NHS is very clear. Yeah. And therefore, we don't need to wait for any long-term study to prove that it's materially safer than smoking.
Take heed, Chancellor of the Exchequer, Jeremy Hunt, of course, for the budget next week. Marcus Saxton, Chair of the Independent British Vape Trade Association. Marcus, appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us, my friend.
Thank you.